Jane Kilcher's story is one of quiet strength woven through hardship and resilience. On Alaska, the last frontier, viewers saw her as the skilled fisherwoman and devoted mother. But behind the scenes, Jane faced struggles that few could imagine. Life on the remote homestead is already a challenge, but when tragedy struck her family, it tested her in ways beyond physical endurance. Jane's journey is not just about surviving Alaska's harsh wilderness. It's about the emotional battles, the sacrifices, and the raw human moments that often go unseen. Through heartbreak and healing, she has shown a remarkable courage that reminds us all how strength can live in the most vulnerable places. This is the heartbreaking yet inspiring story of Jane Kilcher. A glimpse into the Kilcher family legacy. To understand Jane's journey, you first need to understand the world she stepped into. The Kilcher homestead, nestled about 11 miles outside Homer, Alaska, is a sprawling piece of wilderness that has been in the family for over 80 years. It's a place where survival is a daily challenge, where the seasons dictate every action, and where tradition runs deep. The Kilchers live without many of the comforts that most of us take for granted. No central heating, no easy access to stores. Instead, they rely on hunting, fishing, farming, and a vast store of knowledge passed down through generations to endure brutal winters and scarce resources. This is not a lifestyle for the faint-hearted. It's one that demands grit, resourcefulness, and an unbreakable connection to the land. It's also a family that's steeped in its own unique dynamics, strong personalities, generational divides, and a shared history that shapes everything. Enter Jane Kilcher, more than just a fisherwoman. Jane wasn't born into this legendary family. Unlike some Kilcher women who grew up immersed in the homestead's rugged culture, Jane's roots lie just outside the family's domain, in the small town of Homer, Alaska. Growing up by the coast, she developed an extraordinary talent for fishing and hunting, skills that would become her hallmark on the show. But Jane's talents extend far beyond her prowess with a fishing rod. From the moment Jane appeared on Alaska, the last frontier, she brought something different to the table, a fresh energy that contrasted with the stoic and rugged Kilcher men. Watching her skillfully reel in massive salmon or deftly navigate the icy waters was impressive, but what truly drew viewers in was her warmth, humor, and grounded personality. She was the spark of light in a world that often seemed harsh and unyielding. More than a skilled angler, Jane became a vital emotional anchor for the family. She had an ability to lighten tense moments with her quick wit and humor, offering viewers a glimpse of the human side of homesteading, the laughter, the frustration, the love, and the everyday struggles. She wasn't just surviving, she was thriving in one of the world's most challenging environments. The challenges of being a woman in a male-dominated frontier. Despite her vital role, Jane's presence was often overshadowed by the men of the Kilcher family. The show, true to its dramatic nature, focused heavily on the rugged exploits of Oski Kilcher, the family patriarch, and his sons Atsley and Osley. Their battles against the wilderness, personal demons, and each other provided much of the raw, gritty drama that hooked viewers. Jane, however, found herself pigeonholed as just the fisherwoman, a label that failed to capture the depth of her contributions or her vibrant personality. This narrow portrayal frustrated Jane deeply. She openly expressed that the show's editing and narrative choices often ignored the full spectrum of her life, the struggles she faced, the tough decisions she made, and the strength she displayed off camera. Her role wasn't simply about fishing or supporting her husband. Jane was a fiercely independent woman, a devoted mother to her daughter Piper, and someone who brought a unique perspective to a lifestyle traditionally dominated by men. She was bridging two worlds, the rugged Alaskan frontier, and the contemporary life many viewers relate to, showing that success in the wilderness doesn't require a family legacy, just heart, grit, and determination. The complex relationship with Jane Kilcher. At the center of Jane's story is her relationship with Jane Kilcher, son of Jane Kilcher. Jane was portrayed as a complex figure, fearless, adventurous, and sometimes rebellious. Like the land they lived on, his spirit was wild and untamed, often struggling to balance freedom and responsibility. His story was one of the show's main threads, full of emotional highs and lows that captivated audiences. Jane and Jane's relationship was a key part of the narrative, but like many things on reality TV, the story presented to viewers was only a fraction of the real picture. Behind the scenes, their marriage faced challenges that were never fully explored on camera. The pressures of public scrutiny, the difficulties of living under the relentless spotlight, and the emotional toll of balancing family life with the demands of a televised wilderness existence added layers of complexity. Their sudden and unexpected divorce shocked fans and raised questions about what really happened behind the scenes. For years, the details remained private, adding to the mystery surrounding their separation. A woman of strength and independence. Jane Kilcher is much more than what most viewers saw on Alaska, the last frontier. Behind the scenes, beyond the cameras and scripted moments, she has been a woman defined by quiet strength, resilience, and fierce independence. While the show often focused on dramatic wilderness survival and adrenaline-pumping challenges faced by the Kilcher men, Jane's story was more subtle, but no less powerful. From the very beginning, Jane worked hard to guard her privacy and maintain a sense of normalcy in a world where every family moment risked becoming public spectacle. She understood early on that reality TV often distorts reality, painting people in broad strokes that rarely capture the full complexity of a person's life. For Jane, this meant working to redefine herself beyond the simplistic labels attached to her, like the fisherwoman or the wife of Jane. She was determined to be seen as a whole person, with her own dreams, struggles, and strengths. At the heart of Jane's life is her love for her daughter, Piper. For Jane, motherhood isn't just a role, it's a calling, a source of purpose and grounding that helps her navigate the unpredictable wilderness of both nature and public scrutiny. She has spoken openly about how important it is to create a stable, nurturing environment for Piper, one that's protected from the pressures and judgments of the outside world. In a way, Jane's journey reminds us that life, whether in the remote Alaskan wilderness or the glaring spotlight of television, is about more than just physical survival. It's about relationships, personal growth, and finding your own voice amid all the noise. Jane, the silent backbone of the Kilcher family. If the show Alaska, the Last Frontier painted a picture of Jane Kilcher as the rugged adventurer and family patriarch, Jane Kilcher was the silent backbone supporting the family's survival in quieter but equally essential ways. Jane wasn't just Jane's wife, or the woman fans saw skillfully fishing on the river. She was a devoted mother raising their young daughter, a homesteader managing the countless daily tasks that kept their remote household running, and an emotional anchor for the family. While Jane was off facing the raw brutality of the wilderness, whether wrestling with bears, braving icy rivers, or confronting his own personal demons, Jane was often at home managing the less visible but no less critical parts of homestead life. From preparing meals to preserving food, securing supplies, repairing tools, and caring for their daughter, Jane's day-to-day work was the foundation upon which the family depended. Yet, this vital role rarely made for exciting television. the show's producers naturally gravitated toward the larger-than-life personalities of the Kilcher men, spotlighting their emotional highs and lows, physical confrontations with nature, and dramatic personal battles. Jane's steady, consistent contributions lacked the explosive drama that reality TV craves. Her struggles were quieter, her triumphs less flashy, but they were no less heroic. The unequal spotlight. Editing and narrative choices. The narrative focus on the men of the Kilcher family, especially Atis Lee and his father Osev, was a conscious choice shaped by the nature of reality TV. Editors favored storylines full of adrenaline, conflict, and visible hardship, naturally spotlighting those battling the wilderness and their own intense emotions. As a result, Jane's story was often relegated to brief glimpses or framed as a secondary storyline. Her role became that of a supporting character rather than a central figure. She was frequently referred to simply as the fisherwoman, a label that belied her multifaceted identity. Jane's frustrations with this narrow portrayal were real and understandable. She wanted viewers to see her not just as an accessory to her husband's adventures, but as a strong, independent woman with her own challenges, victories, and journey. This editorial bias led to a portrayal that didn't fully reflect the balance of life on the homestead, where much of the survival depends on the work done out of sight of cameras. By Jane. She managed emotional well-being, solved practical problems, and held the family together with resilience and grace. But these moments, often lacking overt drama, were overshadowed by the flashier struggles of the men. Family dynamics and growing speculation. As the show gained popularity and the Kilcher family became more of a public phenomenon, the cracks beneath the surface began to draw attention. Although the Kilchers appeared to be a tight-knit clan, whispers of tension and family disagreements surfaced behind the scenes. Rumors swirled, suggesting that Jane clashed with some relatives and that relationships were strained. Living under constant public scrutiny made every small disagreement feel magnified. What might have been a normal family spat in any other context was dissected and blown out of proportion by media and fans hungry for drama. Speculation about Jane's place in the family grew louder, with some questioning whether she truly fit in or if underlying friction pointed to deeper divisions. Despite the swirling rumors, Jane remained grounded. She refused to be drawn into public battles or petty disputes. Instead, she continued quietly demonstrating her worth and resilience, often without the cameras or fanfare. Her ability to stay strong amid both family tension and media speculation reflected a remarkable inner fortitude. The real Jane behind the scenes. For those who followed Jane beyond the show, especially through social media and personal updates, a more authentic and vibrant woman emerged. Jane shared moments of laughter with her daughter, heartfelt reflections on family life, and candid glimpses into her struggles and triumphs away from the spotlight. This more nuanced human portrait helped fans realize that the show's version of Jane was only a small slice of who she really was. Reality TV often compresses and simplifies lives into neat storylines, leaving out the subtle complexities and personal victories that don't make for easy entertainment. Jane's true story is one of resilience and self-definition. She refused to be boxed into the limited role assigned by reality TV producers, instead embracing her full identity. She became a symbol of strength and authenticity, a woman who fought to be seen and heard on her own terms, beyond the fisherwoman stereotype. From fisherwoman to resilient icon. When viewers first met Jane Kilcher on Alaska, The Last Frontier, she was often introduced simply as the family's expert fisherwoman, the woman with remarkable skill and patience to pull salmon from the icy Alaskan waters. Her quiet presence on screen was like a steady undercurrent beneath the more dramatic moments of the show, where the men faced wild grizzlies, harsh blizzards, and grueling physical challenges. But Jane's story was never just about fishing. Over time, she quietly transformed into a symbol of something much greater: quiet strength, unwavering determination, and resilience that doesn't always shout, but runs deep. Jane's journey is not measured in adrenaline-fueled feats or survivalist bravado. Instead, it's a testament to the kind of courage that's forged in the day-to-day, the endless hours spent nurturing family, the patience required to keep a household running in a remote wilderness, and the mental and emotional stamina to stand tall when life's storms come, whether literal or figurative. Her story reminds us that strength takes many forms, especially the unseen emotional and mental fortitude needed to hold a family together and to carve out one's own identity in the face of outside expectations. She wasn't just a woman catching fish. Jane became an emblem of resilience, someone who refused to be boxed into a narrow definition and who insisted on being recognized for the full scope of her experience and heart. The turning point: Lee's near-fatal accident. The true measure of Jane's strength, however, was revealed in the most harrowing way possible. In 2015, life took a devastating turn for the Kilcher family when Lee, the rugged, adventurous patriarch known for pushing his limits against Alaska's brutal wilderness, suffered a horrific accident. While hiking with a friend, he slipped and fell off a steep cliff. The injuries were severe: broken arm, fractured leg, multiple broken ribs, and other internal traumas that could easily have been fatal. This accident was not just a physical catastrophe, it was a rupture that changed everything. Lee, a man defined by his fearless spirit and incredible endurance, suddenly found himself stripped of his independence and forced into a long, painful battle for survival and recovery. No longer was he the unstoppable outdoorsman braving nature's worst. Instead, he faced a different, deeply personal struggle: the slow, grueling process of healing and reclaiming his life. The physical pain was brutal, but the emotional toll was perhaps even heavier. Lee had to confront vulnerabilities he'd never faced before. The accident shook the very core of who he was, and the road ahead was uncertain, fraught with setbacks and slow progress. For the family, it was a moment of crisis that tested every ounce of their resilience. Jane's unwavering strength through crisis. In the face of this upheaval, Jane's role shifted in ways that few people outside the family truly saw. She moved from being the quiet supporter in the background to the undeniable cornerstone holding everything together. The weight of responsibility on her shoulders grew exponentially, but she met it head-on. Jane became Lee's rock. Through endless hospital visits, surgeries, and exhausting rehabilitation sessions, she was there, steady, unshaken, and fiercely devoted. Her support wasn't about dramatic gestures or heroic rescues. It was the quiet, relentless commitment to being present every single day. She managed the household, cared for their daughter Piper, balanced finances, and tended to the emotional chaos that inevitably followed such a traumatic event. The strength Jane showed during this time was a stark contrast to the adrenaline-pumped heroics that audiences were used to seeing on screen. Her courage was not the stuff of wild adventures or life-or-death confrontations with bears. It was the kind of strength that's born from love, endurance, and the determination to keep going when everything feels like it might fall apart. Her ability to hold the family together while Lee focused on recovery revealed a profound inner power. Jane wasn't just a supporting character in a reality show. She was the backbone of the family, the steady hand in a time of storm, the emotional toll, and marital struggles. But the accident's impact extended far beyond the physical injuries. It placed enormous emotional strain on Lee and Jane's marriage, something the cameras only hinted at, but which was deeply real behind closed doors. For Lee, the shift from being fiercely independent to suddenly dependent was a heavy blow to his identity. He had built his life around strength, self-reliance, and control over his surroundings. Now, he had to lean on Jane in ways he never had before. This role reversal was difficult, causing tension and distance between them as they both struggled to adjust. Jane, on her part, faced a balancing act few could understand. She carried the weight of caregiving, often lonely and exhausting, while trying to hold on to her own emotional well-being. Supporting Lee through his recovery, managing their home, and nurturing their daughter required near superhuman resilience. Yet, the emotional toll of this pressure sometimes led to feelings of isolation and fatigue. Their marriage, once seen as rock-solid and unshakable, was tested in profound ways. Behind the scenes, there were moments of doubt, strain, and uncertainty, reminders that even the strongest relationships can be fragile under immense stress. Public scrutiny and private pain. Living this intensely personal struggle under the harsh glare of the public eye only amplified the challenges. Every interaction, every quiet moment, was scrutinized and analyzed by fans and critics looking for drama. Rumors about the state of Jane and Lee's marriage began to swirl, speculating that the accident had caused irreparable damage to their bond. Yet, Jane refused to engage with the gossip or fuel the rumor mill. She chose privacy over publicity, dignity over spectacle. Her decision to keep the family's struggles out of the headlines showed a rare kind of strength, one rooted in maturity, self-respect, and an unwavering focus on what truly mattered: her family's health and unity. By resisting the temptation to air personal pain for public consumption, Jane demonstrated that courage isn't always loud. Sometimes it's the quiet resolve to protect what you love, to shield those you care about from harm, and to navigate life's darkest moments with grace and steadiness. The unseen depth of their journey. Lee's recovery was far more than just healing broken bones. It became a profound journey that reshaped the very fabric of their relationship. The accident forced both him and Jane into new, unfamiliar roles. Lee, once the fearless, self-reliant outdoorsman, had to learn to lean on Jane in ways he never imagined. For Jane, her unwavering presence became the anchor that kept their family steady amidst emotional storms and uncertain futures. This shift challenged their understanding of strength and independence. It wasn't about rugged individualism or dramatic survival skills in the wilderness anymore. It was about quiet endurance, compassion, and the deep work of healing, both physically and emotionally. Jane's steadfast support went beyond what viewers saw on screen, revealing a resilience grounded in love and commitment. Their story serves as a powerful reminder that survival isn't always about bold, visible heroics. Sometimes, it's the unseen battles fought behind closed doors, battles of patience, sacrifice, and emotional strength that truly define us. Jane's journey stands as a testament to the complex, often unrecognized realities behind the edited highlights of reality television, and to the enduring power of love in the face of hardship. The wild spirit and the steady anchor, a complex partnership. Jane Kilcher was always known as the wild heart of the Kilcher family. Adventurous, daring, and fiercely independent, He embodied the untamed spirit of Alaska's rugged wilderness. Whether it was hunting in remote backcountry, navigating treacherous terrain, or testing his limits in nature's harshest conditions, Lee was the family's bold explorer. He pushed boundaries, took risks, and embraced life with an unyielding passion. To fans watching Alaska, the last frontier, he was a symbol of raw courage and resilience, a man who faced danger head-on and lived life fully on his own terms. Jane Kilcher, in contrast, was the quiet strength behind the scenes. Not one for flashy moments or grand adventures, Jane was the steady rock that kept the family grounded. Her role on the homestead was indispensable, managing daily life, caring for their daughter Piper, and maintaining the rhythms of a demanding lifestyle in one of the world's toughest environments. Where Lee was fire and unpredictability, Jane was calm and steadfast. Together, their dynamic worked because it was a perfect balance, a blend of wild passion and unwavering stability. But all of that changed dramatically after Lee's devastating accident in 2015. The accident that changed everything. In the summer of 2015, during a routine hike, Lee fell from a steep cliff, suffering severe injuries that threatened not only his life, but the foundation of their family. Broken arms, legs, ribs, injuries so serious that survival was uncertain. For someone like Lee, who had built his identity around physical toughness and self-reliance, the accident was a crushing blow. Suddenly, the man who had once faced grizzly bears and icy wilderness alone was forced into a position of vulnerability and dependence. He could no longer do simple tasks without help. The rugged outdoorsman was now a patient in need of constant care, and the emotional toll on him was as intense as the physical pain. This reversal of roles wasn't just difficult, it was profoundly destabilizing. For Jane, the accident meant stepping into a new role entirely. She went from being the quiet supporter to the primary caretaker and emotional anchor. Caring for Lee's physical needs was demanding, but the emotional labor was even more taxing. She had to navigate not only his pain and frustration, but also the strain on their marriage and family life. Navigating the emotional landscape. The shift in their relationship was seismic. Lee struggled to accept his new reality, often resisting help and wrestling with feelings of helplessness and loss of control. Jane, meanwhile, found herself balancing her own fears and exhaustion with the need to remain strong for him and their daughter. The tension between Lee's pride and Jane's caregiving created moments of friction and heartbreak, testing their bond in ways viewers never fully saw on camera. The caregiving journey is rarely glamorous. Jane's days became long and exhausting, managing medical appointments, household chores, and emotional support, all while trying to keep a sense of normalcy for Piper. She bore the weight of their family's survival, often in silence, away from the public's eye. The emotional toll on Jane was immense. She wasn't just supporting a husband in recovery. She was managing the delicate balance between being a wife, mother, caretaker, and her own person struggling with the enormity of the situation. At times, the strain threatened to overwhelm her, but her resilience never wavered. Living life under a microscope. As if the challenges of recovery weren't enough, Jane and Lee faced another daunting obstacle: the relentless public scrutiny. Alaska. The last frontier cameras captured moments of their lives that most couples would keep private. Every glance, every disagreement, every moment of vulnerability was magnified for an audience hungry for drama. Fans and media speculated endlessly about the state of their marriage. Rumors swirled that the accident had fractured their relationship beyond repair. While the public support was often positive and empathetic, the intensity of the spotlight left little room for Jane and Lee to process their struggles in peace. The pressure to maintain appearances while dealing with deep personal pain was a heavy burden. Despite the rumors, both Jane and Lee kept their private challenges largely out of the public eye, refusing to engage in sensationalism or media speculation. This dignified silence was a testament to Jane's maturity and strength, choosing to focus on her family rather than the noise. The slow drift and growing distance. Though neither Jane nor Lee publicly admitted to serious marital problems for years, it was clear that the accident had introduced strains they had never faced before. The roles they played, the independence they once cherished, and the dreams they shared began to feel distant. As time passed, the caregiving role shifted Jane's life in profound ways. What had once been a partnership of equals slowly tilted under the weight of unspoken frustrations and unmet emotional needs. Lee's struggle to reclaim his identity and Jane's growing sense of burden quietly eroded their closeness. It was a slow, painful drift rather than a sudden fracture. For any couple, such a dramatic shift would test even the strongest bonds. For Jane and Lee, the isolation of living in the public eye only compounded the difficulty. Their private pain was often misinterpreted, simplified, or sensationalized, making genuine healing harder to achieve. The divorce announcement, facing reality. After years of speculation and silent struggle, Jane and Lee finally made the difficult decision to divorce, announcing it publicly in 2023. The news was both heartbreaking and relieving for fans who had followed their journey closely. In a carefully prepared statement, Jane spoke openly and honestly about the emotional pain the decision carried. She shared how the years of challenges, physical, emotional, and relational, had worn on both of them, ultimately pulling them apart. Jane's words were raw and genuine, reflecting a woman who had fought fiercely for her family but also recognized the need for healing and growth apart. Lee's statement was more measured, focused on acknowledging the separation without delving into emotional details. Despite their differences in expression, both made it clear there was no bitterness or resentment. Just two people who had grown in different directions and needed space to find themselves again. Life after the split. Jane's new chapter. Jane did not let the end of her marriage define her. Instead, she embraced new challenges and adventures with the same determination that had carried her through the darkest times. In 2021, Jane made a surprising and bold move by joining the cast of Bering Sea Gold, a reality show that follows the perilous and demanding work of gold dredging in the icy waters of Nome, Alaska. For someone who had spent years in the rugged but grounded life of homesteading, diving into the unpredictable world of underwater gold mining was a huge shift. Her friend, Emily Riddell, a seasoned captain on Bering Sea Gold, had asked Jane to help manage her dredge while she was pregnant. Jane, always up for a challenge, accepted without hesitation. What followed was an intense learning curve, mastering complex equipment, enduring freezing water temperatures, and navigating high-stress crew dynamics. But Jane's resilience shone through once again. She adapted, grew, and earned respect, proving that her strength wasn't just about survival on land, but also about embracing new and daunting experiences. Her journey on Bering Sea Gold symbolized a fresh start, a woman redefining herself on her own terms, unafraid to get her hands dirty and forge a new path.